Good afternoon. So we're going to we're going to go over the week 5 quiz. And how are you doing during in this class so far this week? Everything going good? That's good. All right. And Veronica, welcome to the week 4 class. And I'm going to be going over the week 5 quiz prep for this week. So week 5, you have a week 1, week 3, week 5, and week 7 quiz in this class. So, okay. Veronica, how are you doing?
I'm okay.
So, welcome to this class, and I'm going to now start the week 5 quiz prep. That's the yellow one, and okay. I'm going to share it. So here, can you guys see it?
Mm-hmm.
So far, I haven't really hear it. Now it says week 5 quiz prep. Can you see it? Yes?
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So the week 5 quiz prep, you should study this quiz before you take your week 5 grammar quiz. So in the week 5 grammar quiz, we're talking about, punctuation. And so we're going to talk about the importance of quotation marks. So we use quotation marks around dialogue. So in a dialogue, you always need a beginning and an ending quotation mark around the dialogue. You also need to use italics around movie titles, book titles, or any other title. And so here, let's start today's lesson. Use of quotation marks for dialogue. Quotation marks are used to quote dialogue. You must use both the beginning quotation mark and the ending quotation mark around a dialogue. And so here, John says, Michael is here. Now this is wrong because here you do have a beginning quotation mark, but you're missing an ending quotation mark. Here, this one is wrong because you're missing a beginning quotation mark, but you have the ending quotation mark. This one is correct because you have a beginning quotation mark and an ending quotation mark. So for your quiz, it's going to say, is this a correct or incorrect sentence? Is there a missing quotation mark? So A, Martha claims George is home. So which is the correct sentence? So the answer is C, because here you have a beginning quotation mark and an ending quotation mark. B is incorrect because it's missing an end quotation mark. A is incorrect because it's missing a beginning quotation mark. Everybody get that so far?
Yes.
So on the quiz, watch out for incomplete quotation marks. There's going to be a lot of quiz questions like this. So you got to make sure that when you look at the sentences closely, that the correct sentence has a beginning quotation mark and an ending quotation mark. So this quiz requires more alertness, not just simply do you know it or not. Why are these sentences wrong? So this is an actual quiz question. In Jason Bourne, Nikki Parson cryptically tells Jason, remember, everything doesn't mean you know everything. And so here, this is not a correct sentence because you're missing the ending quotation mark over here. In Bourne Identity, Nikki Parsons tells Jason, remembering everything doesn't mean you know everything. And in this one, you're missing the beginning quotation mark, so it's wrong. And so in order for it to be correct, you need to have a beginning quotation mark and an ending quotation mark. Now this is very easy in principle, but it takes a lot of looking closely to see if it's there or not. My dad's favorite saying is, don't pull tomorrow's cloud over today's sunshine. Where is the missing quotation mark? So the missing quotation mark is before the word don't, and therefore the answer would be before don't. So you need to italicize titles. So while you need quotation marks before dialogue, whenever you have a title, you have to have Gone with the Wind, needs to be italicized. And when you write your APA reference citation, article names also have to be, because that's a title, also have to be italicized. So here, find an original idea. It's the only way I will ever distinguish myself. It is the only way I will ever matter. John Nash moans in A Beautiful Mind. So here you have A Beautiful Mind is the name of a movie, so you have to italicize the title. Then you have to have a beginning quotation mark and an ending quotation mark for the dialogue. That makes the entire sentence correct, is if you have the beginning quotation mark, the ending quotation mark, and you have the italicized title. Incorrect. I saw a movie named Gone with the Wind. This is wrong because this movie title is not italicized. So what is wrong with these sentences? Emily Blunt's character in The Devil Wears Prada explains, I'm just one stomach flew away from my goal weight. And so here, The Devil Wears Prada is a movie title, and therefore it's not italicized, so therefore this sentence is incorrect. However, if I italicize the movie title and I put a beginning quotation mark and an ending quotation mark, then this makes it a correct sentence. So the movie title, The Devil Wears Prada, needs to have italics in order to make the sentence correct. Quiz question. Which of these sentences are correct? Emily Blunt's character in The Devil Wears Prada explains. So are any of these sentences correct? Yes or no? So is it A, B, C, or D? Which is the correct answer? Anybody?
None of the above.
None of the above. Why are they all wrong?
The title is not.
That's right. The title is not italicized. In all of these sentences, The Devil Wears Prada, the title is not italicized, so therefore none of the above is the correct answer. So is everybody clear on quotation marks, dialogue, and movie titles and italics before I move on? All right, singular versus plural subjects. Now we did this in quiz 1 and quiz 3. So when you have a singular subject, then you have something like the coat is ugly. If you have a plural subject, you have something like more than one, so it becomes the coats are ugly. And so we already studied that if you have a singular subject, you have a singular verb, and if you have a plural subject, you have a plural verb. So that's all subject-verb agreement. And so here they're just reviewing what is a singular and a plural subject. And so Sasha, what is the difference between a singular and a plural subject?
Singular is one and plural is more than one?
Yes, that's correct. So singular is more, like one of something, and plural means more than one. So that's the difference. That's all there was to this entire chapter. Moving on to the next one. Capitalization. We always capitalize famous names and titles, and we always capitalize proper nouns. And so therefore, names of titles, people's ethnicities, if you were to say French, English, Chinese, Japanese, Korean, that all has to be capitalized. Names of subjects like mathematics, economics, physics, nursing, all of that has to be capitalized. And names of states like California, New York, Utah, that all has to be capitalized. So names of places and states and nationalities all have to be capitalized. And also titles, President of the United States, King Henry, all Aunt and Uncle John, all have to be italicized. So that's just here. The French people live in France. Also names of countries have to be italicized. So here that's incorrect because French has to be italicized because it's the name of ethnicity, and France has to be italicized because it's the name of a country, just like all the states have to be italicized. So correct, the French people live in France. And then Uncle Bob, so it's the name of your uncle. If I simply say uncle, the uncle lives in Kansas, or my uncles live in Kansas. Actually, my uncles live in Houston, but that's beside the point. Then you don't have to capitalize it. But if I say Aunt Jane lives in Houston, then as soon as you have somebody's name, that's like a title, then you have to italicize Aunt Jane. So Uncle Bob lives in Kansas. And so here, because you have the name Bob, you have to italicize Uncle Bob. Here you have President Lincoln, and this is the name of someone's title. Therefore, you have to say President Lincoln is the 16th U.S. president. That's also a title. My uncle lives in Kansas. Since there's no name, Uncle who? You know, you could have a gazillion uncles. So if you don't specify which uncle, then you don't have to capitalize that. And also when you write in your forums, I like to drive, you should capitalize your I. So here, slightly more peaceful France was restored when Napoleon Bonaparte rose to power in 1799. So this is correct because France is italicized. This is the name of a country. Napoleon Bonaparte, he's the name of a king in France. So he also has to, so anybody's name like John Smith or Veronica Jones all have to be italicized. The grandchildren show great respect for Grandma Janet. And so here you name, if I just say grandma is old, you don't have to, the grandma is old, then you don't have to italicize the grandma. But if I say Grandma Janet is old, you have to italicize it because it names the person. If I say my grandparents are from China, do I have to italicize my grandparents? Anybody? You're muted. Someone tried to answer, but they are muted.
That's mine.
Yes, you just have to say my. You don't have to italicize grandparents. Here I have my grandma was great. Her name was Grandma Nai. And so here, my grandma, you don't have to italicize. How come we don't have to italicize grandma over here? Veronica. Sasha, how come I don't italicize grandma?
Because you didn't specify what her name was.
Correct. So here, what is wrong with these sentences? I love my Uncle Bob because he always makes me laugh. So what is wrong with this sentence? Anybody?
Bob.
Uncle Bob needs to be capitalized. Correct. When I miss the bus, I call for a taxi instead. So what's wrong with that sentence? You have to capitalize the I. So you always capitalize the names of countries, names of famous people, and always when you're talking about yourself, I. So in your opinion, which sentence shows proper capitalization? So I think this goes to, no, it's this one. However, he quickly declared himself Emperor Napoleon I, and in 1812 led a French invasion of Russia. So this is not correct because the word emperor needs to be capitalized since that is the name of somebody's, title. Here, the French invasion was not a success because the word French needs to be italicized. So that is what's wrong with that sentence. And I don't think I wrote the answer here. So in your opinion, which sentence shows proper capitalization? A. However, he declared himself Emperor Napoleon I, and in 1812 led a French invasion of Russia. So which one of these shows proper capitalization in which the whole thing is correct? A, B, C, or is it none of the above? Anybody?
Oh. None of the above.
None of the above. Yes, that's correct because A, French is not capitalized, and in B, emperor is not capitalized, and in C, emperor and French are not capitalized. And then what is wrong with these sentences? President Abraham Lincoln was the 16th president of the United States. And so what's wrong with this sentence? The first one.
President is not capitalized.
Exactly, because you got to capitalize President of the United States because that is a title. Then the second one is wrong because here, when you begin a sentence, you need to capitalize the first letter of the first word of a sentence, and you need to capitalize his title. So President, so this is correct, President Abraham Lincoln was the 16th President of the United States. So does everybody understand the chapter on capitalization? Yes.
Yes.
All right, so let's do comma usage and the dependent clause. When a dependent clause comes at the beginning of a sentence, we use a comma. When a dependent clause comes at the end of a sentence, you do not need a comma. So that's a fairly simple rule. So when John goes to the store, so here you have a dependent clause, and then you have to have a comma. For instance, if I say when John goes to the store, is that a complete thought? If I just say when Bernstein takes a walk, is that a complete thought? No. When Bernstein takes a walk, then you want to know, so what else happened? So when Bernstein takes a walk, she likes to whistle while she walks. that sort of thing. So as soon as you add the subordinating conjunction when to a sentence, then that makes the sentence dependent. It makes it a sentence fragment, and it makes it an incomplete thought. And that it is this subordinating conjunction that turns a sentence into a dependent clause. And so we're going to study sentence fragments, because if you have sentence fragments in your essay, then you get a big fat X. So here, when this dependent clause comes at the beginning of a sentence, you have to have a comma. But when the same dependent clause comes at the end of the sentence, notice there's no comma here. So when John goes to the store, he wears his mask because of COVID-19. And John wears his mask when he goes to the store. And here, when the dependent clause is at the end of the sentence, no comma. And so the exception is if you have that, which, who, whose, and whom. Then that becomes totally different. So when you have adjective clauses, Jack, who is French, lives in Paris. Then when you have who, you have two. When the dependent clause comes at the beginning of the sentence, you have two commas. And when the dependent clause comes at the end of the sentence, you have one comma, which I don't have over here. So Jack, who is French, lives in Paris. And because we have who, and then who is French, who are we talking about? Who is French, this entire clause modifies Jack. So therefore, this is an adjective clause, because this clause acts like an adjective to modify Jack. The table, which is antique. Well, what's antique? Well, this entire which is antique modifies the word table. So therefore, the table which is antique means the same thing as the antique table. So that's why when you have an adjective clause, when an adjective clause comes at the beginning of the sentence, you have two commas. When the adjective clause comes at the end of the sentence, you have one comma. So the exception to the rule is when you have that, which, who, whose, and whom. So that's the exception to the rule. And so when you have a subordinating conjunction, so here you have I walk the dog. So that is a complete thought, a complete sentence. It's known as an independent clause. I chew gum while I walk the dog. So here while is a subordinating conjunction. And as soon as you have a subordinating conjunction, it makes the rest of the sentence a dependent clause. So while I walk the dog is a dependent clause. And when the dependent clause comes at the end of the sentence, you have no comma. Then when that same dependent clause comes at the beginning of the sentence, you have a comma. So while I walk the dog, I chew gum. And so when I walk the dog, this is an incomplete thought, or while I walk the dog is also an incomplete thought. Therefore, it is a sentence fragment and cannot stand alone. And the only way you can make this make sense is when I walk the dog, I do what? I look at nature. I pick up after the dog. In other words, after it goes to the bathroom, you use a plastic bag and you pick up its dog do or something like that. Now it's a complete sentence. When you have a subordinating conjunction and an independent clause put together, that's known as a complex sentence. You're going to be studying that, all the sentence structure stuff, in your week 7 quiz. So for now, all you have to know is when I walk the dog is a sentence fragment, and also when I walk the dog comes at the beginning of the sentence, you have a comma. And so when I chew gum, I walk my dog. So that's a complex sentence. Since I became a nurse, I feel fulfilled. So since I became a nurse is a dependent clause at the beginning of the sentence, so you have a comma. While I was growing up is a dependent clause at the beginning of the sentence, and it has a comma. And once you're going to notice here, while I was growing up, while growing up, and growing up all mean the same thing. All of these are all adjective clauses, dependent clauses that come at the beginning of the sentence. And these are known as reduced adjective clauses, because while I was growing up, you can take away the I and the was, and you can end up with growing up, I always wanted to be a nurse. So when you make your adjective clause get smaller and smaller and smaller, this was the original, while I was growing up, then it becomes smaller to while growing up, and then it becomes even smaller, growing up. So when you make your adjective clause get smaller and smaller, that's known as a reduced adjective clause, and that's known as a reduced dependent clause. But it still follows the same comma usage rules, where you have when a reduced adjective clause is at the beginning of a sentence, you use a comma. Does everybody understand that? While I was eating at the restaurant, while eating at the restaurant, eating at the restaurant, that sort of thing. So I made it smaller and smaller and smaller. And the reason why it gets smaller and smaller and smaller is because of conversational English. People getting lazier and lazier. So instead of saying, while I was growing up, and people are in a hurry while growing up, or so as you go further down, it becomes more and more informal English, and as you go up, it becomes more and more formal English. So if you want to write formal English, say you want to sound educated for your boss, try to avoid reducing your adjective clauses. Say the whole thing. That will make the person sound more formal and more educated. Same thing with contractions. So instead of saying, this has nothing to do with your lesson, it's just formal, I haven't had dinner. Okay, so this is if I'm talking to my friends, my family, I use contractions. If I'm talking to my boss, I avoid contractions and I simply say, I have not had dinner. Now when you listen to that, you'll realize that I have not had dinner sounds more British and more formal than I haven't had dinner. Do you hear the difference?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're a native speaker, you should be able to hear the difference. ESL speakers, it all sounds the same. They just memorize the rule. Oh, okay. Contractions, conversation. I have, and then the other one. So that's the difference when I teach English. Here, as a nurse, I have a job with, now I'll get back to our, whatchamacallit, let me get rid of this, otherwise that's going to look weird. Anyway, so as a nurse, I have a job with benefits. So here you have an introductory phrase, and then you need a comma. And so when I walk the dog, you have to have a comma. And so in your quiz, they're going to have this kind of sentence and say, where is the missing comma? And then it should be before the word I, that sort of thing. So that's going to be your I chew gum when I walk the dog. So when the dependent clause is at the end of the sentence, you do not need a comma. The only exception to the rule is for adjective clauses like who, which, that sort of thing. And so that's it for, oh, okay. Well, actually, this is still a long lesson. When Karen's mother returned to college this year, the entire family had to help out with the housework. Where is the missing comma? Where is the missing comma? Veronica, where is the missing comma in this sentence? A, B, or C? Anyone?
After college.
After college, yes. When Karen's mother returned to college, and then you put the comma because you have a dependent clause at the, so the comma goes at the end of the dependent clause when the dependent clause comes at the beginning of the sentence, and therefore the correct answer is after college. Now I got to take away this comma for the next group of students. All right, and so, oh, I'm wrong. When Karen's mother returned to college, it's this year. Oops. So the answer is actually after the word, when Karen's mother returned to college this year. The entire family had to help out with, so it's after the word year, not college. Okay, sorry about that. So I didn't read the whole thing. So it's after the word year. So here, after year, wherever the dependent clause ends and the independent clause begins, that's where you put your comma. And so here, comma usage. One comma rule. When a dependent clause is at the beginning of the sentence, you use a comma. When it is at the end, we do not use the comma. So does everyone understand that so far? Now I'm going to do more about the exception. Okay, the exception to the rule, relative clauses, also known as adjective clauses, modifies the noun it describes. If the adjective clause, that, which, who, whose, is located in the middle of the sentence, use 2 commas. If the relative clause is located at the end of the sentence, use 1 comma. And so here, when you have which, that, and who, these are all, this is the difference between which and that. I'll talk about that in a second. So if the adjective clause, which is sold at high prices, so you would put a comma before the dependent clause, the adjective clause, and you put a comma after the adjective clause. And this is only when you have that, which, who, and whose. Then when if the adjective clause is at the end of a sentence, it takes one let's see, where is that? I bought a rare cactus plant, then 1 comma, which is, or that is, sold at high prices. So here you have the adjective clause at the end of a sentence, so you only use 1 comma. If that adjective clause, which is sold at high prices, come in the beginning of the sentence, you have 2 commas. Does everybody get that? And another name for this is appositive, because what is this adjective clause modifying? It's modifying the cactus plant. So as soon as the clause, and a clause is a sentence with a subject and a verb, and so as soon as you have the clause modify the a noun, then it's known as an adjective clause. And so here, large cactus plants, which now sell for very high prices, are being stolen from national parks and protected areas. And so here, large cactus plants, and so this is at the beginning of the sentence, so you have a comma before the word which, and a comma after the word prices. And so your quiz question will look like this. Large cactus plants which now sell for, and notice how there's no commas anywhere, because they want to ask you where you're supposed to put the commas. So where do we place the missing comma? A, B, well, we know it's not D because I gave away the answer. So is it A, B, or C? Where? Whoa, someone echoed. What was that? You're muted.
A.
A, yes. So here, after plants and before, after plants and after prices. So the answer is A. Does everybody get that? Do I need to slow down? Okay. The demonstrators protesting nuclear arms carried signs reading, "Humans have never invented a weapon which they haven't used." Where is there a missing comma? And on your quiz, you're not going to have those magical red lines to tell you the answer. That's from my Grammarly. That's my Grammarly, whatchamacallit. So if you have Grammarly, it will tell you where your mistakes are, and it's free. It's the free version of Grammarly. So for this answer, Grammarly tells you the answer. So which is the correct answer?
B.
Nope. The answer is B. So humans have never invented a weapon. And here you have your dependent clause at the end of the sentence. When you have an adjective clause, and when the adjective dependent clause comes at the end of the sentence, you will put a comma after weapon. Remember that. Yeah, because adjective clauses are the exception to the rule. So when you have that, which, after, whose, and when an adjective clause comes at the end of the sentence, it takes 1 comma. When an adjective clause comes at the beginning of the sentence, it takes 2 commas. And so adjective clauses are different than dependent clauses. That's what you have to remember. A dependent clause simply has a subordinated conjunction plus a complete sentence, and it doesn't modify anything, whereas an adjective clause modifies a noun. So you have to be able to know the difference between a dependent clause and an adjective clause, since they behave differently. And one way in which you can remember the difference is that adjective clauses always start with that, which, whose. I don't know if I forgot anything like that, but something like that. So that, which, whose. Is there any more? I think that's it. that which, who, whose. So those are the only words that indicate an adjective clause. And as soon as you see those words, then you know that when those words come at the beginning of the sentence, 2 commas, and at the end of the sentence, 1 comma. All the other subordinating conjunctions are simply, if it's at the beginning of the sentence, 1 comma, and at the end of the sentence, no comma. Does that jumble your mind or what? No? You get it? Is it automatic? It should be automatic by now. So is it automatic for you? Yes? Good, good, good. Then you're going to ace this quiz. Let's see, we did this one, and I don't remember if we just did that one. So comma usage, here, the table that is made of wood. So then here you have an adjective clause, that or which. Somebody asked me the difference between, what's the difference between that and which? That is used in conversational English. If you're talking to a friend, you would say the table that is made of wood. If you're going to talk to your boss, you would say the table which is made of wood. So that's the difference. There's no real difference except tone. Okay? But otherwise, in the way it behaves, because both of them are adjective clauses, is the same thing. The adjective clause comes at the beginning of the sentence, it's 2 commas, and at the end of the sentence, 1 comma. And another name for this, relative clauses. Yet another name for this is appositives. So if you want more information about this, you can go look up appositives, and you can look up adjective clauses, you can look up relative clauses for more information. So does everyone understand comma usage? Do you need me to go over it again? No. Okay, I take that silence is golden. And so when you have coordinating, so comma usage after coordinating conjunctions. A coordinating conjunction is fanboys, which comes in between 2 independent clauses which formed compound sentences, which I'm going to go over a lot more in week 7. So a coordinating conjunction, for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. When you have 2 sentences of equal significance, that's when you have you use a coordinating conjunction. So you always put a comma before a coordinating conjunction. So John is smart, comma, but Mary is stupid. John gets good grades. For. In this case, for means because. Notice how when I go like this, it says because. Most Americans don't use for in this manner. This is a very British way of talking. So British people tend to say, John gets good grades for he studies very hard, or something like that. So then where Americans would say, John gets good grades because he studies hard. That's so American. Anyway, for is a coordinating conjunction. So therefore it behaves, so you have to put a comma before the for. So anytime you have a coordinating conjunction, you simply have to remember to put a comma before it. So that's a pretty simple rule. So but, for, yet, and. And then here you have use a comma after coordinate. Well, Oxford comma, and that's a whole nother thing in which people argue whether or not these commas are necessary or not, and stuff like that. But I say that for this quiz says that these commas are required. So if you want to argue the fact, you can go to Oxford comma and Grammar Girl and read about the argument between Oxford comma or not. So Mary is tall, comma, but John is short. John is fat, but he eats very little. And so you'll notice that even when you use transition words, okay, so here instead of saying but all the time, you can use transition words of opposition. And so here when you use a transition word, you have a choice of punctuation. You can either say John is fat, period, then you say however, comma. You always have to use a comma after a transition word. So John is fat, however, comma, he eats very little. Or you could say John is fat, semicolon, however, he eats very little. And the difference is when you use a semicolon, it means and. So it means that your sentences are more connected together. So if you're going to connect sentences together in your thesis statement, like when you state your reasons, then we use a semicolon. Does everybody get that? Yeah, okay. So like I said, this quiz goes over punctuation, mechanics. And so here is a quiz question. I had left my wallet on the store counter, but the clerk called me at home to say that it was safe. Where is there a missing comma? Is it A, B, or C? Of course, this gives you the answer, but try not to look at the answer. What is the answer? What is the answer? B, yes. So I had left my wallet on the store counter, and so the comma always goes before the fanboys. So that's all you need to know about that. Contractions. Contractions are used in conversational English. So if I'm talking to my friends, I'm going to say I'm, he, she's, there, we're, you're, it's, and that sort of thing. And if I'm going to talk to my boss or to my teacher, I skip all the contractions, and I'm going to write I am, he is, she is, they are, we are, you are, it is. If you're writing a research paper, you want to use a really formal tone of English, I would skip all the contractions and just write it out. So instead of saying there, you would say they are. So that's how you write a more formal tone of English. That's what you would write in a business letter. You would skip the contractions and you would just write out your words in order to sound more formal. And so it's a nice day. So you always, when you use a contraction, you always have to use a apostrophe. If we don't use an apostrophe, then it becomes a possessive pronoun like the dog wagged its tail. Remember when we did its? And so right now, when you use contractions, we use the apostrophe S. But when we use the, well, what did I just say? I forget. So these are contractions used in conversational English. So you're, you are. So you're, you are, and then this is a possessive pronoun. And so you're crazy to go into the seawater in the wintertime, and here you have your, that's not correct. So does everybody get the difference between you are and your? Yeah? Okay, good. So here, I am sure you're gonna think I'm crazy. So here the correct answer becomes you are. Your stands for you-o. Okay, so let's see, he's. And then he's stands for he is. He'll stands for he will. She'll stands for she will. And they'll stands for they will. And so that's it for contractions. Everybody remember their first grade contractions? I would say that's when everyone learned it, roughly. Long time ago. Wasn't first grade a long time ago? Yeah. When to spell out numbers. And so 536, write the number. He has 536 papers to grade. He has 500. So when we have numbers, we spell out numbers that are fewer than 3 words. So when you have numbers 1 through 10, those are all, we write it out because it's fewer than 3 words. Anything longer than 3 words, then we have to write it out. So we're going to write out 1,222. We write this out because it's longer than 3 words. However, if I have something like 57, that's shorter than 3 words, so then we write, and then we spell out the number, okay? So we spell out, did I just say that wrong? Spell out numbers that are fewer than 3 words, and then spell out numbers, and then just write the number if it's under 10, okay? So we write out small numbers, so that's what I wanted to say, that's it. So I write out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because those are all single words. Now if I have something like 1,000 or 4,379 or whatever, 4,380, we write the number. So we write the number when it is more than 3 words, and then we spell out the number when it is fewer than 3 words, okay? So long numbers, you write out the digits, and 1 through 10, like 15, 16, 17, whatever, you just spell out the number. And then whenever I write 5-paragraph essay structure, I'm not supposed to, let's see. Okay, so it's wrong to go like 5-paragraph essay structure. You will see me make that mistake in many places. It's correct to write 5, and I'm supposed to put in a dash. 5-paragraph essay structure. And also remember your dashes. And so here, see, this is what's fun about Grammarly. It corrects your English. So here, 5-paragraph essay structure. So which is correct? Do I say I have 72 shoes, or do I say I have 72 shoes? Which is the correct, A or B? Which is correct? If there's only 2 words. Do we write it out, or do we write the number? B, yes. So if it's less than 2 words, we write it out, and if it's longer, then we write out 4380. That's when we write the digit. I shouldn't say write the number. Write the digit. That way, write the digit when it is more than 3 words. So we will have the report for you in 72 hours. So here, 72 can be written as 72, which is fewer than 3 words, so it needs to be spelled out. And then when you use numbers to show dates, times, addresses, percentages, and chapters of books. Chapter 2, October 31st, 2021, 1000 Bateman Avenue, 45%. And then we'll have a report for you in 72 hours. And so this is the correct answer. She has $1,345. So we write out the numbers if more than 3 words. And then it's incorrect to say she has $1,345. I guess the only time it's correct is when you write it out on a check. And so here, that's it. Is everybody clear on numbers? Yeah? Okay, so let's move on to abbreviation. And so only standard abbreviations are used in academic writing. If it is not standard, when I say standard, that means well known, that everybody knows about. So everybody knows USA stands for United States. And so if it's not standard, then spell it out for clarity. TESOL, Teaching English as a Second Language. In that way, readers know what the abbreviations stand for. When you write a paper, the first time you use the abbreviation, you have to write it out. And then the rest of the paper, you can write TESOL. So if I wrote at the beginning of my research paper, I belong to TESOL. Are you going to know what TESOL means if you're not a linguist? If you're not a language major, you'll go, what? So that's why it's good to write it out the very first time in your first paragraph, and then after that, you can write TESOL, 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 TESOL. Same thing with NNS, speakers. What is an NNS speaker? No, you wouldn't know that. So if you're not a linguist, non-native speaker, you get the idea. So always write it out at the very beginning. Usually when I first started teaching at this school, and in the introduction forum, all the students would write, I have my some kind of nursing degree, but I'm going for some other, it would be all of these alphabet that I wouldn't know, like LN, CN, CNA, RN. Everybody wanted to go for their RN. So I instantly knew RN was something big, and something LN and CN was not something very big if everybody's going for an RN. Do you realize I had to try to guess what everybody, because you're all nurses, so obviously you all know what those mean, but I'm an English major and I'm going RN. Okay, RN is something good. And I once had a student who goes, I'm an RN and I want to go for my BN. So then I learned, oh, whatever RN means, BN is even better. That sort of thing. So that's how I had to figure out your alphabet soup. So it's always good to write it out the first time. So anyway, only standard abbreviations should be used in academic writing. Do we use text language in academic writing? LOL, is that standard abbreviation? Or is that just conversational English? Some people are laughing. Yeah, well, some people actually think LOL is real English. So we do not write you are good because this is an incorrect abbreviation. I will text you the directs to my house later today. This is incorrect. This is an incorrect abbreviation because that's the way people talk. And also, I once had an 8th grade student insisting that the way you spell you is just the letter U. And then his cute little second grade sister said, no, it's Y-O-U. My second grade teacher says it's Y-O-U. The eighth grader said, no, it's you. The two of them were arguing. And then I remember looking at them both. And then the second grader looked up to me. See, teacher, which one of us is correct? When you're little, you always look up to the adult to say which is correct. And I said, U is spelled Y-O-U. And then the little girl looked so triumphant. And then the eighth grader looked so red. So anyway, that's a long story, but that's when I used to teach. I used to teach elementary school, and during one of the parent-teacher conferences, that's when the two were together. Anyway, so we do not use text messaging spelling in our paper because it is not correct English. So do these sentences have correct abbreviations? Yes or no? The FBI. So is FBI a standard abbreviation? Standard means official. Like it's used for official organizations and stuff. So would you use FBI in an official context? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Yes. What about Dr. Kathleen Smith, PhD? Is that official? So anything official is considered standard abbreviation. In other words, that's good. If I were to say, LOL, you're so funny, that's not standard abbreviation. So that's it for this week 5 quiz. Everybody ready for the week 5 practice quiz? That's the fun part. People seem to like. So no more rules. Now I'm not going to tell you the answers are not marked, and that's up to you to remember everything. And if you can get 100% on your practice quiz, as you know, you can get 100% on your regular quiz. So let's start this fun part. Large cactus plants, which now sell for very high prices, are being stolen from national parks and protected desert areas. Where is there a missing comma? A, B, or C? What? Which one did you say? B, yes. So after plants and after prices, because this is an adjective clause. Which sentence contains incorrect abbreviations? A, B, or C? C. Okay. Pick the sentence that puts quotation marks in the proper place. So which one is the correct answer? Or the correct, in other words, which one has the all of it correct? Okay, got it. Which one is it? Is it A, B, or C?
B.
B, yes, because it's the only one that has the title italicized, A Beautiful Mind. Number 4, I'm sure you're going to think I'm crazy. This one everybody gets much faster. Is it A or B? A, yes. So I'm sure you are going to think I'm crazy. So you are. Select from the following sentences that show proper capitalization. So which one is correct? C, yes, because you have Grandma Janet. And A is incorrect because Uncle needs to have, see, this is Grammarly, so that's why you should get this. It will correct it. And in here, it will correct it here. So here you have to italicize your I. And so only standard abbreviations should be used in academic writing. If it is not standard, then spell out the word or phrase for clarity. Is that true or false?
Wait. Only standard.
True.
True, yes, because standard abbreviation means that it's official. When you see the word standard, only official abbreviations, that's how you remember it. Only official abbreviations like FBI and PhD should be used in academic writing. And then if it's not well known, if it's not well known, then you have to spell it out for clarity. In other words, TESOL. If I say I belong to TESOL, you're like, huh? So if it's not well known here, then you have to spell it out. So the answer is true. Okay, my dad's favorite saying is, don't pull tomorrow's cloud over today's sunshine. Where is the missing quotation mark?
Before don't.
Before don't, yes. So here, before don't, you need a quotation mark. Okay. A. Choose the correct sentence. I can't seem to find the keys. This is the first time you weren't late. If you aren't going to make it, please call. C. Yes, because here you're missing your apostrophes. So remember, contractions always take apostrophes. And here, for the contraction are not, the person remembered to put in the apostrophe. So this is testing your knowledge of contractions. Choose the sentence that puts the quotation marks in the proper place. And so here, okay, got it. So is it A, B, or C? Remember, you got to have a beginning quotation mark and an ending quotation mark. C, yes. So C has a beginning quotation mark and an ending quotation mark. The other two is wrong because here you're missing an ending quotation mark and here you're missing a beginning quotation mark. Which one shows proper capitalization? A, B, or C? A, yes. A slightly more peaceful France. So France here is capitalized and Napoleon Bonaparte is capitalized. And then here it's wrong because the first letter of a word has to be capitalized. And here it's wrong because France has to be capitalized. So which one contains the correct use of numbers? It took 5 weeks. B, yes. So wow, you got that fast. 5 because it's anything 1 through 10, automatically you write it out. Anyway, select the sequence that puts quotation marks in the proper place. Which one of these is correct? What? None of them. Yeah, because the devil wears Prada, in all of these sentences, it's not italicized. Okay, which sentence shows proper capitalization? A, B, or C?
A.
Proper capitalization, it's not A.
C.
C, yes, because 16th President of the United States. This is a title, so therefore this P needs to be capitalized. So C is the correct answer because you got President Abraham Lincoln, 16th President of the United States. So the answer to that one is C. When Karen's mother returned to college this year, the entire family had to help out with the housework. Where is there a missing
Year.
comma? Year, yeah, that's because I made the mistake. Yeah, so everybody remembers that one after a year. So A. I had left my wallet on the store counter, but the clerk called me at home to say that it was safe. Where is there a missing comma?
After counter.
After counter, because of what grammar rule? What was the grammar rule for this? Fanboys. Did you hear me say that? Did I give it away? That was a hint. Yeah, so when you have fanboys, but, for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. Fanboys, coordinating conjunctions. If he understands the circumstances, blank, make the correct choice. Is it A, B, or C? He will make the correct choice. Correct. The demonstrators protesting nuclear arms carried signs reading, "Humans have never invented a weapon, that which they haven't used." Where is there a missing comma? After weapon. So remember that when you have the adjective clause at the end of the sentence, you only use one comma. In your opinion, which sentence shows proper capitalization? Of course, Grammarly gives it away.
B.
D, yeah, none of the above, because Grammarly underline all the words. Of course, when you take your quiz, that's not going to happen. You're not going to have Grammarly to help you out. So this needs to be capitalized, this needs to be capitalized, this needs to be, because they're all names. So names of people and ethnicities. So how many of you are going to get Grammarly now? I feel like I'm some kind of commercial for Grammarly. Yeah. So when you write your essay, and let's say you write this in your essay, Grammarly will correct it for you. So and it's free. This is the free version. If you get the paid version, it corrects even more. Okay, so it's up to you how much money you have. If you're poor like me, I use the free version. But if you have money, you can. Well, anyway. So here's another one. Find a truly original idea. It is the only way I will ever distinguish myself. It is the only way I will ever matter. And so which one is correct? Find the truly original idea. So which is the correct one? None of the above. I do believe we've done this before. Yeah. So a beautiful mind, a beautiful mind, a beautiful mind. Didn't we? Isn't this something we did already? Or is that a Devil Wears Prada? I don't remember. Anyway, so they're all wrong because there's no italicized for. Actually, this was a very good movie. So if you want to go out and see A Beautiful Mind, it was actually a very good movie. Anyway, so that's it for week 5 practice quiz. And then you can practice on your own. So these are the correct answers. And if you who got 100%, who feels confident they're going to do well on their? Oh yeah, you can't do. Don't tell me. That's right. We're FERPA. So do you want me to do this over again? Anybody want to do this over again? No. Okay, you could do it over again on your own, and then see if you can test yourself to get better. And then here I talk about what is a peer, and so from now on in, after the week 4 forum, week 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, all of your forums are all going to be peer review forums. And so you can look over last week's Zoom session in which I talk about what is a peer review forum. So peer review forum is that you're going to look over other people's papers, and then you're going to give suggestions to that person on how they can improve their paper. Now here's something I haven't added to these lecture notes. ChatGPT. I'll say it again. ChatGPT. Because when I created these notes, ChatGPT did not exist yet. So with ChatGPT, you can upload other people's papers, and then you can, without their name of course, and then you ask ChatGPT what kind of essay feedback, how can this person improve their paper? And then you cut and paste their essay without their name of course, and then you press submit, and ChatGPT will give peer review suggestions on how that person can improve their paper. So if you want to, you can use ChatGPT but you got to remember that when you do upload someone's paper, do not have their name on it or school. And so, if you want, you could put Jane Doe or something like that if you want to do that. So ChatGPT is another way in which you can do a peer review, especially if you're ESL and you don't know your grammar. You can do that, and you're thinking, isn't that cheating? Well, not if you comment on it. So let's say you go to ChatGPT, you put in someone's essay, and then ChatGPT gives you suggestions how that person can, finish their paper. Then you can either agree or disagree with the feedback, saying, yes, I think that person needs to put this, this, and this. That way it shows that you've read it and you've absorbed it, and not just simply cut and paste something from ChatGPT. So you have to comment on what you discover. Okay, so just like when I was in 3rd grade and my teacher said, you got to go read an article from the newspaper, then you've got to comment on it and stuff like that. Way the teacher knew that I read it and not my parents to do the homework for me in that case. So anyway, how many in-text citations should I have in my essay? So when you write your essay, you should have only 1 in-text citation per paragraph. And so here you would have the main point from the thesis statement, so that's going to be your topic sentence. Then I stands for your in-text citation, and then E, your explanation of that in-text citation in 5 sentences. And so if you follow that pie structure for your body paragraphs, then you're going to be just fine in writing your body paragraphs. And so here, for instance, if my thesis statement is smoking causes lung cancer, throat cancer, and stomach cancer, then the P means main point from the thesis statement, smoking causes lung cancer. Then I have I, 1 in-text citation. 70% of smokers die of lung cancer. And so there you have, and then when you use an in-text citation, it goes inside the body of your paragraph. And you have you have the author, date, and page number. So that's known as a direct quote because I took it directly from a source. And then the rest of this is all paraphrase. The majority of smokers die of lung cancer. And so you write 5 sentences about what, and that's E for explanation, and you write those 5 sentences about what does that in-text citation mean? Why did I use that in-text citation? How does that in-text citation add significance to the paper? So if you use pie structure, at least for one of your body paragraphs, that will fulfill your APA requirement for essay 2. Okay, so you're not required to use APA in-text citation for your first essay, but you are required for your second essay, because for your first essay we want to focus on essay structure, and then the second essay we focus on APA. So here P stands for main point from thesis, I is in-text citation, E is explanation of that in-text citation in 5 sentences. And then for week 10, I know I'm going way ahead, but people have such a hard time with APA. And you're going to be doing APA in your other classes anyway, so I might as well do it early. So when you do a direct, so APA stands for American Psychological Association. APA is used in social sciences and business. When you do a direct quote, that means you quote word per word what that person says. And so when you do a direct quote, you put in the quotation marks, beginning quotation mark, ending quotation mark, just like you would a dialogue. And then you put in the author name, the date, and the page number. And that's it. There are many ways in which you can write a direct quote. You can put in the direct quote and then put Smith 2009 at page 22. You can say Smith states, then you put in your direct quote and then date and page number. Or you can have Smith 2009 states, then you put in your quotation and the page number. A paraphrase quote is you want to summarize what the author says. So when you summarize it, then you don't need quotation marks. You just say Smith states that smoking causes lung cancer, and then you put 2009. Or you can also put it in as, which is the most common way, is you paraphrase it and then you just write Smith 2009. You don't need page numbers, you don't need quotation marks. Instead of saying states, 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 states all the time, you can have signal phrases like Dr. Smith says, notes, believes, observes, comments, and you can Google signal phrase verbs so you don't keep saying states, 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 states and sound very boring. And so these are known as signal phrase verbs. When I say Dr. Smith states, actually shouldn't say Smith, it should say Dr. Smith states. This is known as a signal phrase because you're signaling to the reader you're about to state a in-text citation. So that's why it's called a signal phrase. And signal phrase verbs. And so here, and then at the very end of your paper, you're going to list your reference citations. And so your reference citations then become Smith, John. You have your last name, first name of the author, date, then the article name. Here you have it italicized. Then you have the website name, and then you have the web address. Do not just simply put a web address as your reference citation, which is a very common error I see in week 9 and week 10 forums. So you have to have the entire thing so that the reader knows where you got the information from. So these are all examples of in-text citations. When you do your reference citation page, you have to use a hanging indent. So I'm not going to read this through. You can look at these notes later on, just so you know it's there. So right now we're studying the writing process. Week 2 was pre-writing, where we wrote our outline. Week 4 is when this is the outline. This is all pre-writing, where you do your mind map and all that. Then when you do your writing, that's week 4. Should be what it looks like, double spaced, and this is indented a little too much, but let's see if I can fix this. Yeah, so then it should look like this. You have double spacing, you indent 5 lines, the first line of every paragraph. So this should also be like this, and that should be like that. Yeah, so and left hand justified, that's what I just did. So this is what your rough draft for your week 4 will look like, because you transform your outline into a 5-paragraph essay. And then here is an example of more APA. So if you want more pie structure examples, that's it for week 5. We are done. And so do you have any questions for this week's quiz or week 4 rough draft? No. Okay, that means we're good to go. And I will see you all next week. And next week, I can't remember what I'm going to be doing for next week, but I'm sure I'll look at my notes and find out. Ha 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 ha. Anyway, so I'll see you all next week. I believe I'm going to be talking about more writing for nurses, or I might change my mind. But if you have a hot topic you want me to cover, so next week is week 5. Wait a minute. Sorry. Week 5, I'm going to be doing the week. Week 5 is open. So if you have a topic you want me to cover or something, you can always email me. Okay? So that's the end of this session. Did you learn a lot from this session? Did you enjoy it?
Yeah.
That's good. All right. So I'll see you all next week, and I will be covering the week 7 would be week 6, always the week before I do the quiz. So that means in week 5, that leaves it open for any hot topics like how do you use ChatGPT or AI. That seems to be the hot topic now. I'm currently writing a book about that, ChatGPT. So that's why I'm all ChatGPT. Do you know what that is, ChatGPT, AI? I don't think nurses use it as much, but in medicine, it's being used to help cure cancer. It's being used to help map the genetic code. It's being used to map proteins, things like that sort of thing. In other words, it could take a human years to map a protein. It takes AI a few seconds. So that's what they're using it for, is to speed up medical research. So for your field, that's what's AI, that's what's relevant to know. But anyway, in my field, it's used a lot more for all kinds of writing. So, any other questions? No? All right, so I'll see you all next week, okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome.